how are you? My name is Iris. Thanks for stopping by Iris. I'm sure this is your first time here, but it's likely going to be a long ride with me because I'm doing a bookshelf tour today. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it is my favorite kind of videos to watch on YouTube. I always wanted to make one of these and just super excited to chat about some of my favorite things. Now about my book collections. I owned about 500 books. It's not a very big home library by any means, but I'm very proud of that. My entire collection, like 99% of my books, were solely from the used bookshops. I would say less than 1% were gifted from friends or I got it from eBay secondhand. With that being said, I'm not crazy about trendy books or new releases, but I don't just collect books very old or collectibles, but I also managed to find many newer release books in used bookshops. I also read a lot of books on Kindle, but the ones I own physical copies are the books I absolutely love. I know I will reread, or those at my TBR that I'm pretty positive that will enjoy. Anyway, if you have decided to hang out with me today, get your coffee and tea ready, be cozy, and let's get into it. I will show you 4 of my bookshelves. You will see in a minute. I also will put timestamps in the description below that you can just pick and skip as you like. I am a very moody reader, so I have my books all over the place. You will see in a minute. I don't have a particular area dedicated as a library. I have this corner shelf in the living room that carry most of my contemporary science fiction, a few fantasy, and mostly are standalone. I don't read high fantasy, but occasionally I do enjoy some low-stakes urban fantasy reads. I see it's kind of random. I have all my Murakami and Ishiguro books at this shelf for easy access, I guess. They are my favorite authors, 100%. And at the bottom shelf, I have some more science fiction mixed with other genres like thrillers and horrors. I mostly read thrillers and horrors on Kindle. I don't usually feel like to own physical copies from those genres unless the ones I very much adore. And here's an entryway desk that carries my art books and photography books and some records that I'm not going to go through in this video. We'll do another video if any of you are interested in my art books collection. Now we are looking at this sculpture style shelf. I have all my vintage classic science fiction here, some Kings, and a few hardcovers. I am 100% paperback reader, so those hardcovers must be purchased from like 15 to 20 years. Those are for downstairs, and here we are at the upstairs in my bedroom. I have the staircase shelf / my working desk from CB2, but I actually got it from Facebook Market. I have all my contemporary fictions here, some different editions of my favorite books, just for collections, a couple of mangas, and a few books in Chinese, and some classics, and a very small portion of nonfictions I have here, and a few overflow sci-fi that I couldn't fit into the other shelf. If I pick the one favorite genre to read, I would say science fiction, but another of my favorite would be magic realism, and some of my favorite books are classics and just some genre fictions from female authors mostly. Last but not least, I keep all the books high on my TBR list at the top of the dresser. I rearrange this section all the time to update the reading priority based on my current mood. From here, I will get into each title I have. If you don't enjoy this part, I hope I can still see you next time. Just come back for my next video. We're back to the downstairs, and I will start with the corner shelf. From top shelf, this one doesn't make much sense if we take a closer look. But initially, I put together most of my Penguin Classic editions here. So we got lots of oranges and blacks. Then I've tried to color coordinate the books here by pulling all the reds, black, and orange books here. It's basically mixed genres from all over the place, but turned out this little area contains lots of my favorites. We are starting out with Ray Bradbury's 100 Stories collection. He is one of my favorite authors, so I'm more than happy to start off with his book. And this is actually a gift from a dear friend. Fahrenheit 451 by Bradbury. The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I absolutely love this book. Used to have The Testaments, the sequel, but I don't like that one, so I sold it a long time ago. Day of the Triffids by John Wyndham. Love all his works, my favorite author. Lord of Flies by William Golding. The Dumb House by John Burnside. I enjoy reading this book so much. It's definitely not for everyone, very disturbing and unsettling, but the writing is just fascinating. If you have strong heart and enjoying atmospheric read, I would highly recommend this one. The Book Collector by Alice Thompson. One Flew Over Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. Another Bradbury, The Illustrated Man. I haven't read this one. Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. Letters to a Young Poet by Rilke. Absolutely adore this book. Very intimate and heartfelt read. The Call of Kalalu and Other Weird Stories by H.P. Lovecraft. Another my favorite author. I would read anything he wrote. The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. Arthur by Alice Smith. The Night Ocean by Paul Lafarge. Another Shirley Jackson, We Have Always Lived in the Castle. 1984 by George Orwell. The Chrysalids by John Wyndham. Homesick for Another World by Ottessa Moshfegh. The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter. Not sure why I still got this one, but I don't really like this one. I had high hope for this book at the beginning because I heard so many good things about it, but Angela Carter's writing style just did not work for me. So difficult to read. It's such a short book, but I had to push it through so hard. The Year of the Hare by Ardo Pasolini. Lonely Castle in the Mirror by Mitsuki Tsujimura. And we have another John Wyndham, The Midwich Cuckoos. I love this cover. Now to my favorite, Neil Gaiman. I simply love all his works. I would read his grocery list if he lets me. We have The Ocean at the End of the Lane. We got Neverwhere. It's my all-time favorite book, Forever Love. I need to get a better edition than this tall mass market edition, I know. But honestly, I'm not mad about this cover though. It's just hard to find any trade paperback I like. And we have Unnatural Creatures. And my beloved The Graveyard Book. I love this edition. Has some beautiful illustrations. American Gods. I think this is one of his best writing, but not my favorite. And Coraline. His short story collections, Fragile Things, and Smoke and Mirrors. And we got Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, one of the most beautiful written books I have ever read. Station 11 by Emily Mandel. This is my all-time favorite. The Road by Cormac McCarthy. Love it, but not enjoying it, if you know what I mean. Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. I haven't read this one yet. The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. This is a gift from a friend that she really wants me to get into this series. She told me this is a fantasy, but also kind of morphed into the sci-fi. It's on my TBR, but I just haven't got me to read it yet. The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chamber. House of Leaves by Mark Danielewski. Very complicated reading experience. You either hate it or love it. It took me a while to get through this book, but I have been recommending this book to everyone ever since. The Glass Hotel by Emily Mondale. I haven't read this one. Wild Seeds by Octavia Butler. This is the only book I have read by Butler, set in a dystopia world, just right under my alley, so I really enjoyed this book. The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin. Replay by Ken Greenwood. The Book of Strange New Things by Michelle Farber. Our System Red by Martha Wells. This is the only murder book series I have read. Enjoyed it, but didn't love enough to read more books from this series. Now, David Mitchell, his Cloud Atlas is one of my all-time favorite books, but somehow I just never had motivations to read more of his works. I also have Number 9 Dream and Ghost Written. Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. Another Cormac McCarthy, Blood Meridian. The Passage, Justin Crowlin. Now this section, we have two of my all-time favorite authors, Haruki Murakami and Kazuo Ishiguro. I'd love to make separate videos for them because I can chat about them all day long, but I will just briefly go through what I have here today. I'm very happy about the collection I got here for Murakami. Pretty much all copies are first English editions, and I collected them one by one from used bookshop all over the States throughout the years. We have The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle. I'm currently rereading this one. The Elephant Vanishes. Blind Willow Sleeping Women. South of a Border, West of the Sun. What I talk about when I talk about running. Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World. Sputnik Sweetheart. Dance, Dance, Dance. Kafka on the Shore. A Wild Sheep Chase. And we have After Dark. You have no idea how hard I got this copy. I will save this story for another video. After the Quake. Norwegian Wood. Kanalus Tsukuru Tatseki. This is the only book by Murakami that I haven't read. And we have Killing Commendatory and the big chunky 1Q84. Now to Ishiguro. Never Let Me Go, of course. Unconsoled. The Remains of the Day. And we have Nocturnes and When We Were Orphans. A Pale View of Hills. I haven't read this one. An Artist of the Floating World and Clara and the Sun. I also haven't read these two, but I'm pretty sure I will get into them someday because I absolutely love his writings. I also got a few books from Neil Stephenson here. Anything is the only book I have read. I also have The Diamond Age, Cryptonomicon, and Snow Crash. And without knowing it, I found this copy was signed by the author. Moving on, I have a few China Mieville. Her Perdido Street Station, another mass market edition I have here. The City and the City, I love this one. The Scar, I haven't read. The Faceless Old Woman Who Lives in Your Home by Joseph Fink and his Welcome to Night Vale. Born by Jeff Vandermeer. I haven't read any of his books. I'm not sure when I will, but I think I just got this book on a whim. We have Wanderers by Chuck Wendig. Another N.K. Jemisin, The City We Became. Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is one of the best science fiction I read in recent years. So brilliant and imaginative. Recommend to any sci-fi reader. Arbiter Cloud by Taiyo Fuji. And next to World War Z by Max Brooks. The Book of the Unnamed Midwife by Meg Allison. Incendiary Mercy by Anne Leckie. The Outside by Ada Hoffman. Do You Dream of Terra 2 by Timmy O. This is really high on my TBR that I really want to get into. Orphans of Canaan by Daniel Vidal and The Hike by Drew Macri. I haven't read these two. Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk. Love her writing. This book, oddly beautiful. Weird, but really good weird. We by Evgeny Yamzantin. It's considered one of the earliest dystopian novel ever written. Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. I got this copy with Brave New World Revisited, but I never got into that portion because I read this book a long time ago. The Wind-Up Girl. Sadly, I DNF'd this book, not sure why it's still here. The Need by Helen Phillips. Books of Blood by Clive Barker. Mean Streets by Jim Butcher. Next to the Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Aden. Leave the World Behind by Rumaan Alam. His writing is a bit odd to me, but after finishing this book, I kept thinking about it for a while. And we have two true crimes here. Say Nothing by Patrick Keefe and Cold Blood by Truman Capote. The Library at Montchar. This is a new read, but didn't do anything to me at all. Never Road Wake by Marshall Passo. I haven't read this one. Paralysis by Susanna Clark. This little book destroyed part of me. I'm not gonna get too much into this, but we'll do one day. The Discomfort of Evening by Mark Ridgeveld. The Secret History by Donna Tate. I got this book purely because YouTube, but I wasn't loving it as everyone else, but still enjoying the reads. I just feel very hard to root into any of the characters. I guess dark academia isn't my thing, but overall, very good reading experience. And we have Chronic City by Jonathan Nathan. Next to Confessions by Kanai Minato. Following with a few horrors, The One by John Mars, Out by Natsuo Kirino, and The Troop by Nick Carter. And Night Film by Marisha Passo. I really love this one, very dark and captivating. I don't read that many thrillers, so can't compare, but this one is just perfect thriller for me. And we have Severance by Ling Ma, Hollow Kingdom by Kara Burston, Trouble and Her Friends by Melissa Scott, Cat's Eye by Margaret Atwood, Anyone by Charles Soule, Creatures of Passage by Marwava Yazdi, City of Savages by Lee Kelly. We have a few short story collections here. The Stories of Ibis by Hiroshi Yamamoto. It took me forever to find this book. I can't wait to get into it. And one of my favorite science fiction short story collections ever, Stories of Your Life and Others by Ted Chiang. The Lottery and Other Stories by Shirley Jackson. Light from Uncommon Stars by Rika Aoki. I'm Waiting for You and Other Stories by Kim Bo-yeon. How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu. The Paper Menagerie by Ken Liu. Masterpieces, the best science fiction of the 20th century by all the big names you can think of. The Silent Woods by Kami Grant. And all the following books are on my TBR I haven't read yet. Midnight Water City by Chris McKinney. Grievers by Adrian Brown. 1 Second After by William Forstchen. And The Riddle Master by Matricia McKillip. And Still the Earth by Ignacio Brandel. A Song for a New Day by Sarah Pinsker. Afterland by Lauren Bucas. Down to the bottom shelf, I have Helter Skelter by Vincent Bigliosi. I got this book because there was a period of time I was pretty interested in cult-related stories, especially Manson family. And I got Caring Comfort by Dan Simmons, Lillman by Nick Harkaway, On the Beach by Neville Shute, Recursion by Blake Crouch. I haven't read this one. I haven't read any of the Crouch books. And I have The Street Body Problem by Cixin Liu. This is a gift from a friend. I feel very sorry that I disappointed her because I tried to get into this book more than 3 and 4 times now. I just never be able to move forward. And we have Snow River by Nicona Griffith, Retribution Falls by Chris Wooden, Wrath by Shannon Molay. And the last book in this shelf is Lapvona by Mushvig. Now to this bookshelf, I will go faster for these books because I'd like to make a separate video to talk about classic science fiction books. But here, all the hardcovers I have. I got 7 novels by Jules Verne. I actually got this one very recently from a used bookshop in Las Vegas. It's just simply too beautiful to pass. But most of the other hardcovers were purchased from more than 10 to 15 years ago in a used bookshop in Ohio. And I have Stephen King's 1122. The Stand, a giant book, and I have Black Beauty, Little Women, and Edgar Poe, my favorite. And I got Christmas Stories by Dickens, the only Dickens I have, I believe. The Roberts of Dorm by Asimov, and then The Vernon by Agatha Christie, and House of Suns. I think this is also a newer purchase. And I got the Complete Stories by Asimov, 2 Sherlock Holmes collections, and 5 novels by Agatha Christie. I will go through quickly with my classic sci-fi collection, starting off with the Tripods trilogy by John Christopher, Earthmen Go Home by Harlan Ellison, Ubik by PDK, next to Dandelion Wine and The October Country by Bradbury, Babel 17 by Samuel Delany, and 2 books from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series by Douglas Adams. I have Life, the Universe, and Everything, and The Restaurant at the End of the Universe. And my favorite book by PKD, Do Androids Dreamed of Electric Sheep? Roadside Picnic by Arkady and Boris Strugatsky. City by Clifford D. Simak. And we have 2 Asimov here, Second Foundation and Robots in Empire. My favorite Bradbury, The Martian Chronicles. Not science fiction, but The ABC Murders and Nemesis by Agatha Christie. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne. The Stars My Destination by Alfred Bester. Volume 4 of the Collected Stories of PKD. Berlin Chrome by William Gibson. Earthsea by Ursula Le Guin. This is a UK Penguin edition of the first 4 books collection. And we have this illustrated screenplay of I, Robot by Harlan Ellison. Interview with the Vampire by M. Rice. Hyperion by Dan Simmons. The World of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. Solaris by Stanislaw Lem. Travel Light by Naomi Murchison. And we got 2 Gibson here, Ida Room and the Mona Lisa Override. And we got 2 books by Len, The Futurological Congress and The Star Diaries. And we got 2 very classics here, Ender's Game and Doom. Next to Childhood End and 2001 A Space Odyssey by Arthur C. Clarke. 2 books by Ursula Le Guin, The Lathe of Heaven and The Word for World is Forest. Rendezvous with Rama by Arthur C. Clarke. Neuromancer by William Gibson. Prelude to Foundation by Asimov. The Giver by Louis Lowry. Another one by Clarke, The Line of Comrie in Against the Fall of Night. Dream of Terror and Death by H.P. Lovecraft. The Steers Women series by Rosemary Kirsten. The Spin by Robert Wilson. The Left Hand of Darkness and the Deposits by Ursula Le Guin. The Past Through Tomorrow by Robert Heinlein. Now to the King, The Institute. A top paperback edition, The Stand, Hearts in Atlantis, The Long Walk, and The Night Shift. We Can Remember It for You Wholesale by PKD, and a few Kurt Vonnegut, Breakfast of Champions, Slaughterhouse 5, Cat's Cradle, and Dead-Eyed Dick. Now we are moving on to my upstairs bookshelf. I have a very small stack of manga and illustrated books here. I have first volume of The Girl from the Other Side, the deluxe edition of Yokohama Kaidashi Kikau, V for Vendetta, The Rabbit Princess, The Path, and a special edition of Uzumaki by Junji Ito. The first volume of Goodnight Pom Pom by Inio Asano, And I group a few of books here based on their beautiful writings. The Collected Stories of Lydia Davis, The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls, Invisible Cities by Italo Calvino, and A Little Life that I have no idea when I'm going to read this giant book. Letters to Friends, Family, and Editors by Kafka. The Complete Cosmic Comics by Italo Calvino. Next to the picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I hope I can find a better edition, but before that, let's just bear with it. Now this section, I have some of my favorite books that I got either first editions or just better editions that I intentionally collected. Like this one, Station 11, I believe that this one is a UK edition. Winesburg, Ohio by Sherwood Anderson. The first UK edition of Never Let Me Go by Ishiguro. And 2 copies of 100 Years of Solitude. And also got a few editions of 1984. Now to this section, I mixed with non-fictions, essays, collections, or just some books that don't fall into any particular genres. We have Wild by Cheryl Strait, The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. I think this is the only John Green books I have. And we have On the Land by Robert McFarlane, Hidami by Nick Jana. Next to South of The Buttonwood Tree by Heather Weber. I haven't read this one. Lonely City by Olivia Lang. Ada or Orda by Nabokov. I think I misplaced this book. It should be somewhere next to Lolita. Spectrum, another book by Nick Jana. And we have Dreamwork by Mary Oliver. This is one of my favorite poem collections. And we have a few of Rilke, Letters on Cezanne, and Book of Hours. I got 2 copies. 4 Agreements. I got these books to read with my kids. Here we have some cozy reads I really enjoy, and some books by female authors I love. Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. Kiki's Delivery Service by Eiko Cardono. And we got House Moving Castle by Diana White-Jones. 2 in my only 2 romance books I have, I believe. Call Me By Your Name by Andrei Asmin. And Swimming in the Dark by Tomas Jodorowsky. The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arikawa. Next to Before Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. Next to A Tale for a Time Being by Ruth Ozeki. And we got Until Night and Day by Bae Suo. And The Women in the Dunes by Kobo Abbey. The Emissary by Yoko Tawada. And The Forest of Wool and Steel by Natsu Miyashita. Open Secrets by Alice Munro. Shady Hollow by Juno Black. And next to 2 short story collections, Things We Lost in the Fire and Small Things Like These. Next to a few of Alice Smith. I have Winter, How to Be Both, Spring, and Autumn. Moving to the one shelf below, I keep most of my magic realism books here and some contemporary fictions here just in general. The Dark Hills Divide by Patrick Carman. Next to Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I borrowed this book from a friend, Blacklight Stories by Kimberly Parson. I haven't read this one yet, which I probably should. Moon of the Crusted Snow by Wopshik Wright. We have The Master and the Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov. Grendel by John Gardner, and Secret Rendezvous by Kobo Abbey. Other Birds and Garden Spells, both by Sarah Addison Allen. Blindness by Jose Saramago, and Labyrinth by George Borges. Next to Outside the Day Museum by Jonathan Carroll. Let Me Tell You by Shirley Jackson. Primeval and Other Times by Olga. Blood Rose by Louise Arderick. The Sparrow by Mary Russell. Next to Midnight's Children by Salman Rushdie. A la Babylon by Pat Frank. And we have My Mother by Zachary Schomburg. Next to childhood and other neighborhood stories in the secret chapter. And we have The Son of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I might be the last person haven't read this one yet. Down and Out in Paris and London by George Orwell. Next to Slightly Out of Focus by Robert Capa. Will You Please Be Quiet Please by Raymond Carver. I got another McCarthy book here, The Crossing. The Birds and Other Stories by Daphne du Maurier. The Overstory by Richard Powers. Now to the bottom shelf, I keep my science fiction overflows here, starting out with The Man Who Fell to Earth by Walter Tevis. Black Sun by Rebecca Romhorst. Next to Crash in Heaven by A.L. Robertson. This book must be my best find of the year. I found it at Powell Bookstore at Hawthorne location last month at $25. Metro 2034, Time and Again by Jack Finley. The Cipher by Kathy Koja. We have The Coming of Conan the Cimmerian by Robert Hubbard. Next to the Ambergris Trilogy by Jeff Vandermeer. The Rig by Roger Levy. Next to The Best of Ginny Wolfe. To the very top of the shelf, I keep a very small collection of classics. And lastly, I keep these books here where I decided to keep the copies, but they are either DNF'd or the books I'm not planning to read anytime soon. Last but not least, to my TBR collection, starting off with Duck's Newbury Port by Lucy Ellman, Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell, Bunny by Mona A. Wood. Next to Antarctica by Claire Keegan, City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab, Unwind by Neil Schusterman, The Hollow Places by T. Kim Fisher, The House in the Grisling Sea by T.J. Klum, and we have The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mindana. Next to The Sentence by Louise Adarac, The Devil of Nanking by Mo Hader. Next to The Letters of Vincent van Gogh. Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. We have Kindred by Octavia Butler. Rebecca, I'm planning to do a rereads in fall. The Book of Anne by Penn Shepherd. Another rereads I'm planning to do very soon, New Romancer by William Gibson. Next to The Memory Police by Yoko Agawa. Whereabouts by Jhumpa Lahiri. Summer of Night by Dan Simmons. We have Exonation by Ted Chan. Metro 2033 by Dmitry Gukovsky. Sea of Tranquility by Emily Mandel. Next to The Sword of Kaigan by M.L. Wan, we have 1,000 Splendid Psalms. Next to I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. And lastly, a book I enjoy to come back from time to time, Tales of H.P. Lovecraft.